Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, ALS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a man inquiring about swimming lessons. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6.
Good afternoon, Shepperton Baths.
Hello. I was wondering if you have swimming lessons on weekdays at your facility?
Yes, we do. For adults and children. Which would you like?
Well, it's for me actually. So, for adults?
We have adult beginners courses on Monday and Wednesday evenings. You can choose which evening is more convenient. You have to book in advance though, as each course goes for 8 weeks of 75-minute lessons. The next course starts in March.
Do I really have to wait that long?
I'm afraid the January-February courses have already begun, and we don't allow beginners to join a course once they have already started.
Oh dear. I made a New Year's resolution to learn to swim, and I'm feeling very motivated right now, but I'm not sure how I'll be feeling in 2 months' time. I want to strike while the iron is hot.
I understand. Perhaps you could book one of our trainers for private lessons. Then you can have lessons whenever and as often as you like.
What's the difference in price?
Well, the adult beginners course is a total of £120 for the course that needs to be paid in advance. Per hour, it works out to be £10 per hour. It's inexpensive because it's an initiative subsidised by the government, the same as children's swimming lessons. If you wanted to have private lessons with a swimming trainer, that would be at the personal trainer rate, which is £35 an hour.
Wow, that's nearly 4 times as much.
Yes, perhaps you should wait until March. It might be a bit warmer then too.
What do you mean? Isn't the pool heated?
Of course it is. It's kept at 28 degrees Celsius all year round. It's just when the weather is chilly it might be less pleasant getting in and out of the water.
Oh, I see what you mean. I still think I'd like to start as soon as I can, though. I'm not really free in the evenings anyway, so I'd probably have to take the private lessons route, whatever time of year I start. It's never easy for me to get away from work early, so I'd prefer to have lessons very early in the morning, before I go to work.
The swimming pool opens at 5:30 in the morning, and I am able to book lessons for you from 6 a.m. Would that be early enough?
I suppose if I did an hour's lesson and then went straight to work from the pool, that would give me plenty of time to get to work by 8:30. I know there's a tube station near the swimming pool.
Yes, there is. Robson Street Tube Station in only a 3-minute walk away.
If I drove to the pool in the morning, would I be able to leave my car there all day, catch the tube back to the pool from work in the evening, and then drive home?
Yes, we have free parking for swimmers. However, the car park closes at 10 p.m., so you would need to get the car out by then.
I understand. I don't think that would be a problem. So let's book my first lesson then.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10.
What's your name?
Martin Reynolds. That's Reynolds.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds. What day would you like to have your lesson?
I can't believe I'm actually doing this after all these years. Next Tuesday, if possible, at 6 a.m.
Yes, that will be fine. Your trainer on Tuesday will be Tony Butler. You just need to ask for him at the office. Tony's one of our most experienced swimming coaches. Can you give me your email address so I can send you a confirmation?
It's martin95@mailbox.com.
Thank you. Well, if that's all,
What about payment?
you can either pay online, you'll get a link with the confirmation, or you can pay at the office next Tuesday before or after the lesson. We accept cash and all cards.
I'll pay with a credit card then. What else do I need to bring?
You need to wear a swimming costume in the pool, of course, and flip-flops when you are walking around, and you will need a towel. Thank you very much for calling, and we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear a woman talking about recording oral histories of elderly people. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
Today we have Vanessa Ward with us in the studio, who organises an oral history project for this local area. Welcome, Vanessa. Can you explain a bit more about what this project is? Yes, certainly. Our oral history project is an historical record directly spoken by elderly members of the community. We interview people about their lives and record their responses on video. This way we have a permanent record of the life stories of many local people. What we read in history books is often very broad and rarely touches on local experiences. This is a chance to find out what life was like in the early part of last century, with first-hand accounts of those who actually experienced it. The interviews have all been catalogued and are available as either the full videos or as written transcripts on the website of the local library for anyone all over the world to watch or read. So far, we have interviewed more than 50 people, and what is particularly fascinating is how varied the experiences of all our interviewees have been. Sometimes it seems incredible that they were all alive in the same time period. Their lives have all been so different. Most of the people we have interviewed have been residents of nursing homes and retirement villages in the area. When we first asked them to participate, many of them were shy and hesitant. But as soon as the camera was turned on and a few questions asked, I was amazed to see how animated they became as they talked about their early lives. I think they even surprised themselves at how much they can remember. We have heard a lot about people's childhoods during the Depression and their wartime experiences at home and abroad. Many stories were tragic, and others light and humorous, but they all contained a sense of resilience and community interaction. We have uncovered stories from farmers and shopkeepers, soldiers and refugees, musicians and artists. We have had stories of world travel and other stories from people who have never left the area.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20.
One of the most popular videos is the interview we did with Macy Johnson, who had been a suburban housewife and mother of 8 children, who revealed that in her youth she had been a dancer in a traveling troupe. She tells many funny stories and her memory is excellent. None of her living family had any idea that she had lived this life before she was married. It came out for the first time during the interview. Another interesting video is an interview with Dr. Miles Sharp, who was the local doctor in the area for more than 50 years, some of it in the period before the National Health Service started. It is most interesting to hear how people coped back in the days before free medicine. We are continuing to add to our catalogue of interviewees, so if any listeners have family members that are interested in talking to us, we would be more than happy to interview them. It has been quite easy to find people who are living in institutions for the elderly, but we are keen to talk to people who are still living in their homes. These people are more difficult to get in touch with, but we would love to have them represented in the library as well. The process takes less than a day. A team of 3 people, the interviewer and 2 camera operators can record an interview very quickly. We have a set list of questions which we send to the interviewee a few days before the recording, so they have some time to think back and uncover their early memories. We also do this to make sure the interviewee doesn't have to worry that any of the questions might be embarrassing or controversial. The interviewee can mark on the list any questions that they do not wish to be asked. Each video is about 15 minutes long and completely unedited, except to jump from one camera angle to another. No one has ever said they don't want to do the interview. It seems we all have a desire to be included and remembered as part of history.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear 3 students, Mark, Stephanie, and Joseph, telling their tutor about a project they are doing on the process of shearing wool from sheep that they have to present as part of their university course. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
Hello, Mark, Stephanie, and Joseph. Today I want to hear about your paper on the process of shearing sheep. I see you have brought in some wool samples to show me. What are these, Mark?
They are examples of wool from different breeds of sheep. The finer the wool, the more valuable it is. Look, this one here is from a merino sheep. Merino wool is the finest in the world and is usually bought by weavers who make the cloth for very expensive business suits. What's the measurement for fineness, Stephanie?
It's in microns. 1 micron is 1,000th of a millimeter. Merino wool is usually between 15 and 20 microns. What are the other breed samples you've got, Mark?
This second one is from a Dorset horn sheep, and we think it's about 30 microns. It's used in cheaper woolen clothing. And then this one is from a crossbreed. It's probably about 40 microns. This wool is usually used in carpets because it is so tough.
Joseph, I see you have a layout of the shearing shed in front of you. What does that show?
It's the shearing process. The sheep have their wool cut off or shorn once a year, and it is quite a production line.
Is it completely mechanized?
No, it's still highly manual.
Why is that?
Because sheep are on farms. There would be no financial sense in installing a fully mechanized process to shear them when it is just once a year and only a few thousand sheep on each farm. The shearers have to work incredibly hard, but because they are dealing with living animals, they need to be handled very carefully. As a result, the process has barely changed in 100 years, except that the tools to cut the wool, the shears, have been electrified since the 1950s.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
So what is the process? You start, Stephanie. It all takes place in a big wooden structure called a shearing shed. The sheep are rounded up outside by sheepdogs and put into holding pens. The sheep are then herded up a ramp into the shearing shed. A shearer picks up a sheep and puts it on its back and shears the sheep, starting from the belly. Shearing takes about 2 minutes per sheep, and some shearers can shear 1,000 sheep a day. What happens then, Mark?
The shorn sheep is released into a chute in the floor so it can run down to an outside pen. The wool, which is called the fleece, comes off in one flat piece. It is thrown onto a table to be cleaned of leaves and debris, and loose or dirty pieces of wool are removed. Then it is inspected by a person called a wool classer, who is able to estimate the fineness of the wool by looking at it.
The wool is then rolled up and put into a wool bin to be pressed into a bale. A bale is made up of about 60 fleeces and weighs a minimum of 120 kilos. The hydraulic wool presser mechanically forces the wool into standard bale sizes contained in square nylon bags.
The babies are then dropped down a chute to a storage area. They are put on a truck with a forklift and sent to a wool receiving warehouse, where they are sorted into groups according to quality and fineness. The bales are weighed and core tested to make sure the wool classer's decision at the shearing shed has been accurate. The bales are later sold at auction. What part of the process are you all interested in making improvements to? Joseph?
It is all very efficient, but, as I said before, the shearer's job is extremely laborious. The sheep are heavy and not easy to control, and the shearer has to bend over all day to shear the sheep. They are not paid by the hour, but by the number of sheep they shear, so they are under pressure to shear as many sheep as possible. We wanted to come up with some way of controlling the sheep so the fleece is easier to remove, rather than just relying on the strength of the shearer. But we haven't been able to come up with a better process.
Perhaps you should change the focus of your report to why this is the most efficient method and why other techniques have failed over the years. It's a bit disappointing, but it looks like that is what we are going to have to do.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear a lecture about trypophobia, a fear of holes. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Trypophobia is an affliction that is also known as the fear of holes. In about 16% of us, it manifests itself as a psychological feeling of disgust at the sight of clusters of holes seen, for example, in the patterns that are made in honeycomb, different types of sponges, skin pores, seed pods, shower heads, some wallpaper designs, and even the arrangement of seeds on strawberries. The sight of objects like these causes some people's stomachs to turn and skin to crawl. Trypophobia, from the Greek trypa, meaning hole, has garnered recent attention because of new academic interest, and this is boosted by the fact that it seems so irrational a condition. Although not officially recognized as a mental disorder, it has in the past been identified as a specific phobia. The people who suffer from this disorder do not want to look at or even be near such objects, and it has long been thought it may have an evolutionary basis and might be even more common than previously thought. Past research in trypophobia has focused on linking the reactions to similar phobias, such as fear of snakes and spiders, which are the most common phobias and plainly have some logic behind them. The same repeating pattern of a cluster of holes is found on the surface of a snake's skin or on a spider's legs. These kinds of low-level visual patterns can help us react quickly to dangerous situations by giving us a lot of information that then does not have to be processed mentally. There is an instant reaction to escape the potential danger ruled by the sympathetic nervous system, which is an automatic system. Just viewing images of threatening animals can create a reaction of fear in many people, sending a rush of hormones to increase the body's alertness and heart and breathing rate, and sending extra blood to the muscles. This is called the fight or flight reaction and is usually related to the emotion of fear. So, until fairly recently, it was thought that trypophobia was a phobic reaction caused by holes being similar to some features of dangerous animals. But new studies are revealing that this might not be the case, and trypophobia may not even be a phobia at all. It may in fact be a rational response, and a phobia is not rational. It all comes down to the actual difference between disgust and fear. One study tested the movement of pupils when confronted with the holy images. The fear response is for pupils to dilate, but with disgust, the pupils constrict, and the muscles around the eyes contract, and our eyes narrow. Whether this movement is to improve focus or protect the eyes is unclear, but it is a vastly different response. In the study, the response of the usual 16% who have trypophobia was that of disgust. The other subjects had little or no reaction. When in the same study participants were confronted with images of dangerous animals, most of them showed the typical fear reaction of dilating pupils, many more than had shown the trypophobic response. Also included in the experiment as a control were neutral patterned images not found in nature, such as checkerboards. These did not elicit any reaction. This showed that though both clusters of holes and images of dangerous animals can both create adverse reactions, these reactions are quite different from one another. Because the reaction to holes was disgust rather than fear, it was suggested that rather than being related to a fear of speckled animals, as previously thought, it may be more due to holes resembling parasitic infections and decomposition. This would require further research. However, the debate on the relationship between fear and disgust has been going on among scientists since the 19th century. This new finding increases the evidence that the two, despite occasionally happening at the same time, have different neural and physiological formations. Both outcomes of how the visual system stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. This has opened up other questions such as what other phobic reactions may have similar outcomes.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.